Local broadcast of the U.S. Senate debate is made possible by the Detroit Free Press, proud to bring you this year's gubernatorial and Senate debates on Channel 56. The Free Press, helping the community make informed choices every day.
This program is made possible in part with a grant from Citizens Insurance Company of America.
Thank you very much. Welcome to our program. This is another in a continuing series from Michigan Public Television stations covering campaign 1994. And tonight we look at the U.S. Senate race, and we have the 5 candidates with us, and they are...
Spence Abraham, Republican Party.
Bob Carr, Democrat.
John Coon, Libertarian Party. William Roundtree, Workers' World Party.
Chris Wege from the Natural Law Party.
Gentlemen, welcome to our program. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. Mr. Carr, let's begin with a question. First of all, to our audience, there are no rules for this debate and no time limits on responses. I think they probably should know that as we begin. Mr. Carr, what did you think of that commercial that Mr. Abraham ran against you, implying that you're Don Regal and Don Regal's you?
Well, I think it was all tricked up, and people see through that. The fact is that everybody knows that Bob Carr's his own man. I think that that's very cynical advertising that Mr. Abraham and his media gurus have used. People understand that there are real issues in this race, that there are ads that we can air that will mean something to the voting families of Michigan, the working families of Michigan, the people who are working hard and playing by the rules. Those ads don't help anyone.
Do you apologize for that ad?
No, Tim, we're fighting for Don Regal's seat in the U.S. Senate. I think it's important that people know that Bob Carr, just like Don Regal, cast the tie-breaking vote for the president's huge tax increase. I think it's important they know that they both supported the president's health care plan to put federal bureaucrats in charge of our health care system. I think it's important that they know that both Don Regal and Bob Carr have taken huge amounts of money from special interest groups outside of Michigan.
Just a minute.
The
fact of the matter is that his words are as distorted as the morphing of the heads. That wasn't a tax increase. It was a budget plan. It included tax increases on 1% of the people.
It raised taxes. It was the largest tax increase in history.
The largest tax increase was in 1986 under your president.
No.
The fact of the matter is that we cut spending. We cut the federal government.
Tim, the fact is we increased gasoline
taxes. We slashed the deficit in
gasoline tax.
And listen, people are paying less now for gas than they did when that was put into effect.
But some people are paying more taxes. Is that correct?
Look, in this state, the voters, with the help of the governor and Mr. Abraham, added 2 cents to the sales tax, which added to the gas tax in this state, too. So the fact of the matter is that gasoline prices in Michigan were about 99 cents in December after the October increase that went into effect as a result of the 1993
budget bill. And you're holding responsible for the increase?
No, what I'm saying is that people aren't paying any more in gas taxes than they did before that went into effect.
But I'm glad that Bob's just acknowledged that he would have supported an increase in the income tax in this state because that was the option to the sales tax. But the fact is his tax increased taxes at the pump 4.3 cents per gallon.
But people are paying less today than they did.
I think the people want solutions. I think they want to stop this bickering. I think this bickering is what's led to gridlock in Washington, D.C.
What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this?
This kind of bickering is de-energizing the whole process. It's making people get tired of politics. It's why the American democracy has less people participating in it than any other democracy in the world.
Isn't this just a spirited debate on the issues?
I think there's other ways to debate the issues, and I think people should, I think you've given us a forum where the third parties can bring up their ideas, but I think the people are asking for new ideas. 2 years ago, a poll came out showing that 68% of the people in the United States would favor the formation of a third party. That's when the Natural Law Party started, and that's when we came out with what we think are scientifically proven solutions to remedy these kinds of problems.
All right, Mr. Coon, Mr. Engler's been campaigning and saying that a vote for John Coon is a vote for Bob Carr.
I'm glad to know that he realizes that I'm a threat to the Republicans, and sooner or later the Democrats are going to realize what a serious threat I am to them too. And it's for a very simple reason. I just sat here and listened to a Republican candidate and a Democratic candidate. The Republicans saying the Democrats raise taxes, the Democrats saying the Republicans raise taxes. I'd like to ask you both, who's right and who's wrong? I'd suggest you're both right, and the public out there knows it. The Republicans have raised taxes, and so have the Democrats.
Hey, Jen, here in
Simple-
Michigan,
no,
the
no, no, no.
Republican
You had
Party
your
has
chance to talk.
we've reduced.
You had your chance to talk.
And you'll
Now, let me
have
tell you.
55
Let me
minutes.
tell you
yeah,
what
but
the
Republican
actual
Party in
situation
Michigan
is.
has
You're going to
reduced
let this
taxes
go on,
11
Tim, or are you going to
times.
give me a chance to talk?
11 times we've reduced taxes. I want to take that same
How many
spirit to
Republican
Washington,
administrations have we had in the last 20 years, Spence?
Well, you know the answer as well as I do. Yeah. And we have fought for less taxes,
Three.
the
We've
largest
had
tax
12.
cuts in
What
history.
about 1986?
12 years.
That was the largest
about-
tax increase in
how about-
history.
how about
tax
the
bill
tax-
supported
the
by
tax-
Ronald Reagan.
Hey, you guys, you can gang
I
up on me
oppose
if you
that.
want,
I
but the
voted
bottom
no
line
on
is,
that.
Tim, I'm going
fact
to
of the
Washington
matter
to fight
is-
the tax and spend philosophy.
How are
The
you going to fight
bipartisan
the tax and
bodies.
spend philosophy,
The
Spence?
problem is
the way
when
we've
you
done it here in
can't find a
Michigan, John.
Republican president who will veto a
Just
deficit
the way
bill.
we've done it
How
here
many
in
times
Michigan.
in 20 years
Same
has a
kind of
Republican
leadership here in
president done it?
Michigan that John English provided. bringing
You're not
down
running for the
taxes.
Michigan Senate. You're running for the
I'm
U.S.
taking the
Senate,
same
Mr.
philosophy
Abraham. And where are
that
you
we're
going to
working
find a
in Michigan.
Republican
I'm taking the
president
same
with the
philosophy
guts
to Washington,
to
Jen.
veto a bill and 34 U.S.
I'm
senators?
not running for president, Jen. I'm running for the United States Senate.
Mr. Roundtree.
Well, you know, I think everyone here, and I'm glad we're having this debate, and I'm glad to hear the gentlemen here discuss the issues. There's only one issue facing the American people, and that's the question of jobs. Jobs, jobs, national health care, and these are the issues we think are facing the people. We're here to say one thing. We're here not to debate anyone, argue with anyone. I wish them all good luck. We're here to say that every person in the United States deserves a job. And we're calling for a $10 minimum wage hike, period. That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. That's what we're about. We're saying the American public are tired of politics.
Who's going to pay for that?
Politicking.
Who's going to pay for the business? Can you hear the scream from businesses if you do that?
Well, I didn't hear the scream when the federal government bailed out Chrysler Corporation with millions of dollars. I didn't hear a scream about that. We're saying that the money's there, the Pentagon budget can be sliced, the money can be found there, and it can be done.
Well, Republicans and Democrats will certainly find it for you. They've been raising taxes for 140 years in this country. And I'm going to get right back to the point, because the contention that there's one party more to blame for the debt we have in this country is just simply not true. You look at the last 20 years, we have never yet produced a balanced budget. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say, and you're going to try to keep me from saying it, and I'll bring it up every time. Because you've had 12 Republican presidents who could have vetoed any deficit budget, and the only thing it would have taken to sustain that veto would have been 34 United States senators with the courage to back him up. Your party at no time has been so weak that it couldn't have done that, and your party, sir, has had control of Congress and could have stopped any deficit budget too. For 20 years, you guys have been pointing the finger at each other, suggesting that one of the two of you is the answer to the problems, and both of you.
Mr. Hibbert, do you think Mr. Carr and Mr. Coon are in cahoots to get you?
Hey, well, they're ganging up here today, but I can take them both on. I mean, I'll take them. I've debated each of
Isn't
them.
it true that you guys had a series of phone calls before this debate to talk
I
about
had a series
strategy?
of phone calls with you too, Tim.
Huh?
Are we in
Isn't
cahoots?
it true? Isn't it true?
The only time I've met Mr. Coon was at the U of M Michigan State University game down in Ann Arbor.
But
That's
your
the only time
campaigns
we've
have
met.
talked
That's
on
the only
the
time
phone.
we've talked, right?
Your campaigns have talked on the phone.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, we've talked, and the Carr campaign said from the beginning that they'd be willing to debate anyone,
I'd be willing to debate
anytime.
Mr. Coon at any time.
Why do you
On
think
any
Mr.
forum,
Abraham is
Abraham
not
doesn't
willing
want
to
to debate you?
I'll tell you what, we've got a perfect chance to find this out, because I've got a guy in front of me who swore under ooth on the witness stand to exactly what happened.
I will not be drawn into debate. I'll just ask the questions
Well,
you're not
I'm
answering.
telling you, it's a
Why do you
matter of
think?
record.
Why do
We
you
both
think?
know.
Tim, look,
We both know
I'm
it.
here. I'm debating. I've debated more than probably anybody in this. In fact, you have moderated 4 debates that I've been part of in this campaign. I've debated Tim more than I've debated any of you guys.
Well, that's for sure.
Let me point out
That's for
that
certain.
Mr. Abraham was the one that issued a debate challenge for 4 debates, and he withdrew from the 4th debate, Channel 4 in Detroit, because they were going to have an ordinary studio audience, and the studio audience was
I'm
going to ask
here,
the
I'm
questions, and he
debating.
wouldn't.
All right, is that
I would-
true?
Yes,
Is that
I have
true?
debated. That's absolutely
we have
true.
been debating all
He doesn't
during
want to
this
answer
campaign,
questions
Tim.
from ordinary citizens. He wants to hide behind
Bob,
the governor.
I
He
have been
wants to hide
traveling
behind
around this state,
the
and you
spin
know
doctors
it.
and
Your
the gurus.
campaign has
They're both
consistently
right.
avoided debates. You gave us a limit that we couldn't start debates until the middle of October. We were ready to start debating right after
I know,
the primary.
you wanted to debate.
You wanted to hide
right
in
when
This is
Washington.
why nothing happens in Washington.
And I've been debating on that.
I think,
You're
Tim, we really
absolutely
should
right.
get to discussing the issues. And I think the Natural Law Party, again, offers alternatives here. We want to support an all-party government. If we were going to Washington, D.C., we would try to take the best ideas of all the different parties to Washington, D.C. to solve our nation's problems. I think it's high time we stop fighting each other, we stop bickering, and we put our energies to good use to solving the problems for the American people, for the people of Michigan.
If you were elected to the U.S. Senate, you would be a lone voice, would you not?
No, I would be a very loud voice, because the people of Michigan will have been sending a very profound message that they want change, that they want new solutions, that they want something that's sensible. And they if they take a look at the Natural Law Party platform, they'll see that we can save them $1 trillion if we implement our solutions. We've already been to Washington speaking to over 70 legislators in both the Senate and the Congress, and all parties on the health bill would have been using our language on the health bill to cover preventative health measures.
Mr. Roundtree, what does your party stand for?
Well, very simple. I think we differ with everyone here. We're saying that the working person in the United States deserves a decent living. And we've heard it from the Democrats, we heard it from Republicans, and we've heard it from everyone. It's not happening. The social system we live under is not providing jobs. The Congress, it's the Full Employment Act. It's on the books, it's law. They're not providing it. They're not doing it. So those who represent Congress right now, they're violating their own law. They're not following through with it.
For the sake of people that are not familiar, are you communist? Are you socialist? Are you Whigams?
Well, again,
what are you? Mugwumps?
As I said, now, you asked him, is he a capitalist? Have you asked him, is he a capitalist? Have you asked him, is he a capitalist?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a capitalist.
Okay, I am a socialist. I believe in the working class. I believe in changing this system. I'm saying people before profits. That's what I'm saying, very simple. The issue is that every American citizen deserves a decent living. It's not happening. It's not happening. They raised the question. They raised the question. National health care. What has Congress and President Clinton done with it? It's on the back burner. People are
have they not advanced the debate?
I don't think it's on the back burner.
Why should we debate national health care? Why should we debate it? It should exist. It should exist. It should be no debate. It's criminal that people are suffering in this country. That's the criminal act. That's the biggest crime in this country. Every single one of you should know it. And I don't think any of you are against it. I don't think you're against it. The question is stop debating and do something about it.
Mr. Coon,
do you have a solution to the problem?
Do you give the president any credit for the state of the economy right now today? And if so, how much, or if how little?
I give him the credit that he deserves for the state of the economy, but I also have to say that where we're at in this country today is largely the result of 12 years of Republican administration as well. This economy is not functioning at the level that it should, and the reason it's not is because we lost track a long time ago in this country of what our Constitution provided for and what this nation is supposed to be all about. The nation was founded on a fundamental concept of freedom. And it does not mean a job for everyone. It means a job for everyone who's willing to work.
Hold it. No. It does mean a job for everyone. Tell me, if you're born, you should have a job. If you come into this world, you should have a job. Don't tell me people shouldn't have a job. That's the most ridiculous statement I ever heard. Everyone should have a job.
We need jobs for everybody.
So I got these two agreeing.
Well,
we don't need a job for everyone. We need a job for everyone who's willing to work.
Well, we need to have people willing to work and people taking responsibility. But we need opportunities for those people if they're willing to take the responsibility. But we've got to reform welfare.
What's that word you just used? Responsibility?
Absolutely. We have to have responsibility in our government.
For a living?
Yeah, absolutely. And
so does everyone automatically get a job, or only those who want to accept
responsibility? What do you got against welfare, Mr. Coon?
What do I have against welfare?
We need to demand that people go to work. We need to provide them with jobs, an expanding economy. We need to make sure that we have an expanding economy.
Mr. Carr, if every politician who ever promised a job had actually delivered one, every one of us would have 3 jobs.
You're looking at
the dog would have to have a job. If every politician who promised one actually delivered, how many jobs have you promised?
I have created 22,000 jobs in Michigan.
There is no government employee in this country who has ever created a job, Mr. Carr, and you know it. A real person out there with real capital, with a real idea.
Give me a break. Referee, give me a break. Because Mr. Carr, the fact of the matter is, while these gentlemen have been talking, I've been in Washington doing things. And I've brought money and projects here to this state for private sector jobs. These aren't public jobs. These are private sector jobs, creating roads and bridges.
Let me ask Mr. Abraham.
22,000 jobs.
Gentlemen, time call.
Tim, you're the ringmaster.
I understand. Well, I want to ask you a question. How much credit do you give to the president for the state of the economy?
Well, very little. I think the problem we have, 73% of the American people right now said that they're very insecure about the economic conditions down the road, and I'm very worried about the new direction. Just yesterday we saw that the president, his budget director, have a new secret plan that apparently would either raise taxes by eliminating the home mortgage interest deduction, by eliminating deductions for state and local taxes, or, on the alternative, start cutting Social Security. This is a secret plan, just like the secret plan they had back in the 1992 campaign.
He's going to follow George Bush's plan.
Can I respond to that, Tim?
And wait, I haven't.
Go ahead.
And I am very worried about that. If that's the plan, if we're going to continue, that's exactly what we did in 1993. And I think what we need is somebody
Isn't it true
in
what the
Washington
president
who's
said was that
going to
it's not a plan, but it's stuff that's under consideration,
yeah, it's
which is a little
definitely
different?
Well, in 1992, he said we did a middle-class tax cut, and in 1993, we got a huge tax increase. I think that, like in 1992, we've got
So
something
on a number
ready
from
to
1 to 10, the president gets how much credit for the economy? A 2?
2 or 3,
All
yeah,
right.
right.
Listen, let me respond to that. In the word processors at OMB, under the Reagan administration, the Bush administration, and the Clinton administration, there are option papers that say what you can do in terms of the deficit if you cut all kinds of things that we're not going to cut. I remember back in 1986, there was an option paper under the Reagan administration that said get rid of the mortgage interest deduction. None of us jumped on that. We knew that that wasn't going to pass the
Well, isn't the fact that they're thinking about it, isn't the fact that they're thinking about it that it could happen?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it is a word processor.
This was in an Oval Office meeting with the President of the
No,
United
it wasn't.
States and his budget director.
Not at all. The fact of the matter is there are all kinds of
They're
options
going to raise
out there.
taxes or
But
cut Social Security
here's
or
what did
both.
happen.
And
In
Bob
front of the
Carr
United
would
States
also
Capitol, in front of the United States Capitol, with senators and congressmen, Spencer Abraham took an oath and a pledge to Phil Gramm and to Bob Dole to turn us back to Reaganomics, to trickle-down economics, to Voodoo 2, where they promised to increase spending, cut taxes, and balance budget all at the same time. I remember in Michigan when we were packing up into U-Hauls with bumper stickers saying, turn out the lights when you leave Michigan.
All right, do you plead guilty to Voodoo too?
Absolutely. I absolutely believe what we need to do is to cut spending and taxes in Washington. That's what I'm going out there to fight. Bob says he's for a balanced budget amendment in Michigan. Now he's criticizing the idea of a balanced budget.
No, I'm not
I think the budget, as we said earlier, it hasn't been balanced in 25 years. I intend to go to Washington to fight for one, and I think the pay of congressmen ought to be cut 10% every year they don't balance.
Mr. Wege, please.
The question was, do we give credit or blame to the president for the current economic situation? I think the American people are wise to this situation at this point. I don't think that the credit or blame goes to the president or to the government. I think the Natural Law Party stands for empowering people, and it's the people in this country, really, that are producing the economy. All the government needs to do is unharness the potential of our people. And that's what Natural Law Party has proven solutions, to unharness the creative potential of our people.
Part of your solutions, if I read your documents correct, is transcendental meditation. You want the whole country to just go into for about 30 minutes or what?
No, but I would like to see certain sectors adopting transcendental meditation, especially we could be taking people who are on welfare. You mentioned asking about welfare. If we have those people that are on welfare and need support, then at least they can be practicing transcendental meditation, which has been shown in studies 42 times, that when you get a group of people practicing this technique, you can reduce the violence, you can reduce the tensions and anxieties in society, which are the source of many of these problems.
How do you think that plays with the general public that watching this tonight, having a U.S. Senate candidate saying here he wants welfare recipients to do transcendental meditation?
It doesn't play very well.
I think that they should look at the...
His quote was, it doesn't play very well.
It doesn't play very well.
Well, it may not, and I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to play to the people, but I'm trying to propose to them scientific solutions. This has been a proven solution. It's not a new... It's a new idea, but it's a proven solution.
Do you practice TM?
I practice transcendental
Do you,
meditation.
Mr. Roundtree?
I'm not even going to comment on that. First of all, proven solution. When the Flint workers went out on strike and demanded a crisis, one of the auto companies rehire workers, they did it. And the auto companies caved in and gave those workers, hired 795 workers. And the figure's not right. You want a solution to the jobs solution? It's the workers doing what they did in Flint. Going out and telling these corporations to rehire the workers. Workers are working 56 hours a week. They're tired, they're disgusted. The state of the economy, when you talk about the state of the economy in this country, we know what it is. Everyone out there, 39 million people out there know what the state of the economy is. They're the ones who are going to make the decision, and they're the ones who are going to change it. This is what we're saying right now. This is what our party's saying. It's up to us to change the conditions. Politicians, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I'm not even worrying about being elected. And if I was, as I said before, I would put into law a $10 minimum wage.
All right, Mr. Coon, do you think the Transportation Secretary should recall those GM trucks because he says they may be unsafe?
Well, I think that the question of product safety in this country is one that's been addressed from the wrong direction for a long time. Product safety is obviously a very important concern.
But should he recall the trucks?
Let me get to that, because I'm going to answer it. The bottom line is we put our faith in a government agency to determine what our product safety ought to be. And I think we've proven already with programs like Social Security and the House Post Office and numerous other, any federal agency you want to point to, we can point to a program that's not working efficiently. There are all kinds of ways to ensure product safety that don't involve absorbing large amounts of taxpayer
So the trucks should
dollars.
not be recalled?
I'm not saying that at all.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm trying to find that out.
I'm telling you that the assumption's wrong, Tim.
Well,
The
you
answer to
believe the
your
trucks are safe then, right?
You're assuming that there ought to be a government inspector to determine that, and I'm telling you there are other ways.
So
to
it's
determine
buyer
product
beware. If
safety.
you buy a truck that you get into a crash and die, that's your problem.
Now you're assuming that some people are going to go out there and crash and die in trucks because John Coon doesn't believe that federal bureaucrats ought to be entrusted with your dollars to determine their safety.
Mr. Carr.
Tim, I've been investigating this issue for 2 years now based on scientific crash data. The staff at NHTSA recommended no action. I think the Secretary was out of line, and I'm taking action to try to bring him back into line. The fact of the matter is those trucks are safe. They were produced to standards, and there should be no recall.
If they were so safe, why did 150 people die in crashes in those trucks?
Well, a lot of people die in crashes in automobiles that have been built to crash standards. The issue is, were the trucks built to crash standards? You can't recall every vehicle that's ever manufactured that was ever in a crash. Loss of life is regrettable, but the fact of the matter is, the Secretary was out of line, and I think it's an abuse of discretion. And when he said that General Motors was more interested in sales than safety, he really went out of line. As far as I'm concerned, he just signed up with all the professional antagonists of the industry, and that was wrong.
I think the President ought to ask him to step down then?
I'd come close to it, because I think that he...
Well, why even come close to it? Why don't you cross the line?
Well, I'm going to conduct an investigation. I have my staff
and then you're going
to
boot him.
Well, you know, there's a process here. We're conducting a preliminary investigation, and later this week I'm likely to launch a further investigation, because I think the Secretary is way out of line.
Beyond your subcommittee investigation? What in addition? You're going to ask the Justice Department again, or what?
Well, I have the option as chairman of the Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee to order an Inspector General investigation, a General Accounting investigation, and with the help of a couple of other people in the Congress, I can order a Surveys and Investigation Staff investigation.
And the chances are good that you'll do all three.
Well, I don't know. We're trying to sort through the options. The fact of the matter is, we're going to do something.
To recall those trucks?
No, not at all. And I
You agree with Mr. Carr?
Yeah, I think that he's right on that. I think the problem you have is that we have a philosophy in Washington, let's regulate first and ask questions later. Let's take action like the Secretary has done without going through any kind of reasonable measurement of costs and benefits or set up safety standards.
They've been studying this for a couple of years.
Well, but listen,
it's completely out of line. And
I probably agree on this, but it was the staff, it was NHTSA, National Highway Transportation Safety, engineers that said no action.
The problem is the cost of federal regulation to our economy is $600 billion a year. And while a lot of these regulations regarding safety are certainly reasonable, too many are not. And what we have to do to help our economy is to put a cost-benefit analysis on all regulations, not just these. And I think they've gone way out of line. I think the Secretary should be.
So you
asked to
applaud
step
his
down.
calling of an investigation into
Well,
this.
I think what we need now are leaders in Washington who would stand up day one and move forward against the President on this and demand that the President reverse this order.
So you
bottom line is...
Wait a minute, so you applaud his calling a committee meeting?
I support the idea that we should try to...
The bottom
make a
line is
decision.
that I am there and I'm doing something about it.
Should the trucks be recalled?
Well, again, I'm not going to argue that the question of if something's unsafe, of course it should be recalled. That's not even a question. If something's unsafe, it should be recalled.
So these guys are flacking for the auto industry, right?
Well, they always have been. They always have been. And when they go to Congress, or the Senate, that's what they're going to always flack for. We're saying again, the workers can build safe trucks. If a safe truck's built, they can inspect them and find out that truck's safety. I tend to agree with you. Auto accidents, truck accidents that happen. We're for recalling anything that's unsafe for the American public, period.
Mr. Wege.
Well, I think Mr. Carr and Mr. Abraham said two good things. I would take out of what Mr. Carr said as scientific research. The Natural Law Party is for getting the light of science into our government. I think the scientific research should be made public on this issue and on many issues. It should be made public and let the public and let the Congress make the decision based on the scientific research. We're all intelligent people. I haven't looked into the subject in great detail, but we're all intelligent people, and the more that we can bring this kind of information out to the public, what we just don't want is for the car companies or any big organizations or associations to be able to pass laws without the people being able to see what's going on.
Do you think right now the auto companies have
cost-benefit analysis? Just one other thing. Cost-benefit analysis is what Spence said. I think cost-benefit analysis should be there for everything we pass, everything we spend. $30 billion was just spent on crime. There's not a shred of evidence that what they're spending that $30 billion on is going to solve our crime problem. That's the kind of thing, I think that should be made public, and it'll be to their advantage in Washington, D.C., our advantage in Washington, D.C., to have our representatives at least a week ahead of time when they're going to vote on $30 billion that we're going to spend. That should be made public, and they should have input from the public to our representatives, and our representatives should have ample time to check out these subjects before they make a decision.
All right, Mr. Abraham, if you were elected to the U.S. Senate and Ollie North is elected to the U.S. Senate and there's a move to block him from being seated, how would you vote?
I would vote to seat him if the people of Virginia vote for him.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd vote to seat him if he were elected, but the fact of the matter is, Mr. Abraham really has a connection to Ollie North. They share the same media consultant.
So what?
And so, well,
it seems the same phone company, too.
It seems to me that Spencer Abraham and Ollie North are out of the same cut of cloth, and I'm sure that...
Oh, are you accusing me of having lied to the American people now?
Well, pretty much. Your distortions about what's going on in Washington...
yes, I said the taxes are going up, which is right. I've said spending's gone up. Since you've been in Congress,
you didn't tell about the taxes that are going down. You didn't talk about the 41,000 Michigan businesses who had a tax cut.
No, what I want to talk about are the people who are paying higher taxes, middle-class seniors.
You told people the other day that I voted for CAFE. I voted against CAFE.
You voted to create it, though.
I don't know whether you don't know...
You voted to create it,
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I voted against...
4 separate times.
I voted against CAFE. I've got the bill in to repeal CAFE, corporate average.
Did you misinterpret that vote?
And the fact of the matter is, 4 times for its creation back in 1975.
Either Spencer doesn't know the truth or he doesn't want the people to know the truth.
All right, on the Ollie North issue, if elected, would you vote to make sure he is not seated if he's elected?
Of course not. If he's elected, I would vote to seat him. And I just want to expand a little bit on the topic I was just hearing discussed. I don't know about what you tell the people about Bob Carr's record, but I know that you took credit for causing this debate to happen today.
Right.
I know you've been telling people you're pro-gun, that you won't release your National Rifle Association.
Is that not true, that he takes credit for this?
You were on the witness stand.
You keep bringing that up, Mr. Coon. I don't wish to talk about this.
I bet you don't, but you're right here.
Well, shouldn't he get credit for arranging this debate and getting all 5 people here?
Getting all 5 people here? All right, Tim, you just opened up the can of worms. Tell me why I wasn't here and why I was offered the back of the bus.
The question was, is it wrong for him to take credit?
Is it wrong? It's consistent.
Well, that was the question. Is it wrong?
Well, you're not
why don't we ask the 2 gentlemen over here who were not part of the deal between Mr. Carr and Mr. Coon to have it a one-way debate?
What was the deal that they had?
The one you alluded to earlier.
I asked a question about a deal. I didn't substantiate it. Wait a minute, wait a second. I want to hear this. What is the deal the 2 of them had?
Whatever you were referring to earlier.
I asked a question about a deal.
I'll tell you what deal we had. You want to hear what deal we had?
Chad, all I'll do is ask
Chris and Bill. No, you don't want to ask me, do you?
Was it
You'd rather not talk to me, would you?
Well,
no, I think...
The fact of the matter is, the deal we had is I called Carr headquarters and asked them if they'd be willing to debate, and they said yes.
And John, how many times have you and I appeared on the same stage when Bob Carr didn't?
Once.
Oh, I can think of more than once.
When?
Well, didn't we appear before the Ford Motor Company salaried employee?
You're right, twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, listen, now wait a minute. Here's another
Mr.
Spin here. I'm going to start calling Spencer Abraham RPM. What a spin. I was at the Ford debate. Unfortunately, that was the last day of the Congressional session. I was there by phone. So here you go again, trying to mislead people.
Weren't we
You're
all
doing it all the time,
together on the radio?
Answer
I'll get you in, don't worry.
Answer this question. Why is it that when WKAR decided that I warranted inclusion in this debate because of my performance in the polls, and this is all a matter of sworn testimony, it's public record, they did make that decision. Why is it that when they came to the Carr campaign and asked them, would you debate if we invited John Coon, the Carr campaign said yes.
Absolutely.
And when they came to you and said, would you debate John Coon, you said no.
Right.
Well, John, my position is very simple. I'm willing to debate you with everybody here. I think as soon as we have the minor,
not asking,
if we're going to include a candidate with 2%, we ought to also include candidates with 1%.
Why did you say no?
Because he's hiding.
Because I think they're, because, look, John.
Why did you say
when Bob
no?
Carr, when we began because I felt, as I said, that all the
Because you've been
candidates ought to
trying to
participate.
avoid a debate with me
That's
in
not
it for a long
true,
time.
John.
Yeah.
How many times have we appeared together?
All right, gentlemen,
Have
over
we or
here.
have we
Mr.
not?
Wege. All right.
Yes or no?
Was it your idea that I should?
Oops, so it's a yes or no question that I missed. I want to hear this.
You certainly
you the
did.
moderator?
I wasn't there.
And we still haven't answered the question of why you won't release your national.
Are you afraid to debate with just the two of them?
I feel that when these two guys come to us with a deal, that there's probably going to be ganging
have
up.
a
I
deal.
think all the candidates ought to
don't have a deal.
Look, Bob,
I think it's a moot question,
Give me a
Tim,
minute.
because he
Look,
shouldn't
Tim,
be
I'm
debating
here.
with just
All
the
right,
two.
bingo.
I'm
Okay,
here
guys,
and
over
I'm
here. Mr.
debating,
Wege.
and I have debated
It
many
was a moot
times.
question whether he's afraid to debate with the two of them.
Why is it a moot question?
It's a moot question because he should be debating with all five of us. It should never be hiding all of us, any of us. It shouldn't be debating with the three of us. It shouldn't be the debating him with the two of us. It should be all five of us. All five of us are legally on the ballot in Michigan.
So you
and
give
that's
him-
what,
so you give
that's
him
what
credit-
I believe the Michigan people want.
Do you give him credit
I
for-
give the Michigan people credit for it, and I give the people of the United States credit because they're asking for more
Mr. Roundtree.
alternatives.
Well, I'm not even worried. Hey, listen, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be able to raise the issues. I thank Abraham for giving us a call and saying we're welcome to debate. I'm going to say that. It's public knowledge. It will be out there. And I thank Coon for taking it to court. I'm glad to be here. Let's put it that way and bring the issues before the
Mr.
American
Abraham, will
public.
you promise, if elected, never to take a paid junket?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
That by lobbyists? No.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I think it sends the worst possible signals. Mr. Carr's taken something like 65 lobbyist-paid junkets around, to different places. And I think what it tells the people of Michigan is that somebody beside the constituents are important, or too important, to the person.
Will you
in
make the
US
same
Senate.
pledge? Not to take a paid junket?
No, I'm not going to take a pledge never to go out and learn something, to speak to a group. I think that you have to get out of Washington. We have too many people who stay in Washington.
Well, why
and
does somebody
get
else have
some
to pay for
insulate.
that?
Huh? Well, should the taxpayers pay for it? Absolutely not.
Are taxpayers then going to pay for all of your trips?
No, I don't intend to hit the taxpayers either.
You
if
plan
I
to stay
feel-
in town and not travel?
Listen, if I feel I need to go out and get information, I'll pay for it myself. But Bob Carr has
my
spent his
goodness.
entire career
Well, what's wrong
traveling
with that?
around the
What's wrong with
country.
that?
Listen, number one, the United
Well, it's not
States
much
Senate.
fun that way.
And the United States Senate, we don't do this for fun.
Well,
Let me
really?
tell you,
well,
we don't do
travel
this.
to Las Vegas,
We
Puerto
don't.
Rico. That may not be fun
I
to
never
do.
take it-
but
yeah,
You
but
never
I
taken
speak-
wait a minute,
I
as
speak to
Republican
groups.
Party
Listen.
chair or as a Republican,
Oh,
you
yeah,
never
here
took
you
a paid
go.
junket anywhere?
No.
Absolutely not?
Listen, as Republican Party chairman, he was flying all over the place in corporate jets. Now, give me a break.
And who was paying for it?
Huh? The,
And who was
the
paying for it?
corporations.
Is that true, Mr. Abraham?
Absolutely.
No, it's not true.
Did you ever take a flight on a Dow plane?
No, I
An
haven't.
Amway plane?
No.
A GM plane?
I've always reimbursed from
How about American Sunroof?
myself.
American who?
Sunroof.
I mean, we're talking here about elected officials.
This is a fellow who raised
are going to
$33 million
vote. Who are going to vote
from
on
corporate
issues of
interest for
importance.
the Republican
Mr.
Party.
Coon, would you
And-
take the pledge not to take a paid junket?
Of course I'd take that pledge. And I would also wonder if Mr. Abraham, once elected, would finally release his National Rifle Association questionnaire.
Meaning what?
Meaning that I'd very much like to know where it is, and so would a lot of other people who've been calling his campaign headquarters and the National Rifle Association for a long time.
All right, we'll continue on this question,
No,
but
no,
let's
no,
just...
no, hang
have
on.
you been sitting on that survey?
Well, that's my knowledge.
How long
I
have you
don't
been
know what
on
he's
that
talking about.
Well, he just said he wasn't sitting on it.
Listen, all I
what's
can
he
say is
doing
this,
then?
Tim. I've been
Okay,
endorsed by
junkets.
the.
If you
I've been endorsed by John. You're just upset because I was important.
Got 5 copy machines. If you're having trouble getting it out, give me 1 copy.
Well, just,
and I'll-
all right, what
I
gun
honestly
question do
don't
you
know
want
what
to
you're
ask him,
talking
Mr. Coon?
about,
What
Jack.
gun question do you want to ask him?
Well, hold on, let's get back to the
All right, okay, all right, on the junkets, then we'll come back.
I'll leave it at that. The gun owners out there know.
First of
They
all,
can
we
call your
know
campaign
that U.S.
headquarters.
senators make $133,000 a year. I raised the simple idea of raising every single American worker, everyone who wants worker, to $10 minimum wage. Let's see these here people who's supposed to serve the people live and work off of $10 an hour. So I don't want to hear anything about junkets, benefits, or anything else. If they can live by $10 an hour and say that's a job, and you said earlier If you want to work, you want to be a congressman, you want to be a senator, then work for $10 an hour. Work for $10 an hour, because then we can talk. Then we can talk. I think every American worker can talk.
I work 16 hours a day cutting firewood every day of my life, and my wife washed dishes with laundry detergent.
I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you. I will talk to you. I will talk to you about it.
I don't know if either one of these two have been.
I will talk to you about it. I will talk to you about it.
And that's a job.
And every single worker out there who works in McDonald's who's only earning $2.52 an hour.
Mr. Wege on the job.
I'm not going to argue again with any of these gentlemen on that, but I would like to say to you that...
Would you take paid junkets?
No, I would not, and I would go even further to say that I've already stated it throughout my campaign that I would not even take salary, pension, or perks from this at all.
So you work for nothing?
I would work for nothing.
Very good.
Because I feel that...
Wait a minute. Why do you think that's very good? You're the $10 minimum wage guy. I don't understand that.
Well, I'm working for even under $10 an hour then if I went to Washington. I would use the money so that I could do a good job as a senator, to pay for me to go back and forth to Michigan, but above and beyond what was needed for me to do a good job as a senator, I would send it back to the people of Michigan and to their charities and so forth.
All right, Mr. Carr, there's going to be a national movement announced soon to eliminate Rule 22 in the Senate, which allows minority filibusters to block legislation. Would you vote to eliminate that rule?
I'd vote to eliminate the filibuster and eliminate cloture.
Aren't you taking away a strong voice in the Senate?
No, not at all. In fact, from the standpoint of Michigan, we'd be enhancing our power in the Senate. Right now we have states like Wyoming that have fewer population than my own congressional district here in mid-Michigan, and they have 2 senators. The fact of the matter is, each one of those 2 senators can block and put a hold on legislation. The fact of the matter is that those 2 senators have more power relative to the people of the population of Wyoming to stop legislation, to stop progress. And that, in fact, has been what's happening under the leadership of Bob Dole. If he ever became majority leader, watch out, gridlock will be back. Gridlock is already there because of the 60-vote requirement in the United States Senate, and sending Spencer Abraham to Washington enhances Bob Dole's ability to gridlock Washington.
Should 22 be eliminated?
No. And I think it's interesting to hear Bob Carr talking like he's a congressional reformer. He's served in the House.
You really are.
I've been
a congressional reformer. Every year I've been there.
He's been in the House of Representatives since 1974.
And a congressional reformer every one of those years.
They have consistently voted to enact laws for all the rest of us, but not for themselves.
And I voted to apply those laws to us.
Yeah, just how long ago was that, Bob? 4 weeks ago, huh?
All the time I've been there. We've been voting and fighting.
The Ethics in Government Act?
I found...
Did you vote to exempt yourself from the Ethics in Government Act?
Listen, before...
Did you?
No. When we...
You didn't vote to exempt yourself from the Ethics in Government.
Stop your spinning here.
Well, I'm speaking here.
The fact of the matter is, before there ever was an EEOC for Congress, a few of us, including Bob Carr and Mo Udall and Pat Schroeder and a few others, formed a voluntary police dog, watchdog agency so that employees of the Congress would have EEOC rights.
All right, what's right with Rule 22? Doesn't it block majority rule in the Senate?
Well, no, because you have open debate. If people are successful in persuading people...
But you have to get 60 votes to do that. That's not a simple majority.
Well, look, these are important issues going before the United States
Senate. So gridlock is an appropriate thing to have in the Senate.
Look, in the United States House, they have a Rules Committee that decides what can and can't even come to the floor.
I'm not talking about the House. I'm talking about the Senate. Is it appropriate that 60 votes be needed?
Because you have open debate on those issues.
All right, how do you feel on Rule 22?
I support it. Anything that stops legislation at this point is more often good than it is bad. We haven't had good legislation.
So you're for gridlock?
Washington. In some cases, you better believe it. You better believe I am. Look, we have a problem.
I thought the American people were fed up with gridlock.
The American people are fed up with irresponsible government, and that's what
gridlock's not irresponsible?
Listen, Tim, the American people are delighted.
Wait a minute, hold it. You two guys just had a chance to beat each other up, and all I'm trying to do is say you're both right.
Mr. Coon, let him speak. Mr. Coon?
Look, we've had a problem for a long time in this country. The problem's called irresponsible federal government. Anything right now that helps block legislation most often helps and it doesn't hinder. The only way we're going to solve the problem in this country, the only way it's going to happen is to send a message to those 2 major parties that have controlled this country for 140 years. That message has got to be that if you don't start providing us with responsible legislation, we're going to start electing people who will, and it doesn't matter
Mr. Roundtree on Rule 22. Okay, thank you, sir.
What?
I'm going to agree with this last part of his sentence. We're saying government has to be responsible to people. pass legislation.
Is doing nothing being responsible?
They haven't been doing nothing for 140-something years. And that's
Well, aren't the people fed up with that?
That's right.
Well, then you're just taking a position to continue.
No, I didn't just take the position.
Well, if you agreed with him, that's what I heard him say.
You didn't hear him say that. I said, listen to me. And the last part of it said that we're sick and tired of government not passing legislation that's responsible to the people. And that was his last remark, and that's what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay, I think the people, from this debate, the people can even know what they're going to get from Washington. Every time the Republicans and the Democrats start speaking, they start into this backbiting and at each other. And what the American people want is solutions to their problems. The Natural Law Party went in the last 2 years and spoke with 70 legislators. I spoke about this before. They went on one day and they spoke with Newt Gingrich, who is arguably one of the most conservative in the House of Representatives, and they spoke with Tom Harkin later that afternoon, who is arguably one of the most liberal senators from Iowa in the U.S. Senate. And both of those people agreed to our language covering preventative health, preventative medicine. Why? Because it was a universally acceptable solution to the problem that we're facing in healthcare. And the Natural Law Party is proposing more and more solutions which are universally acceptable to the wide range of people. When you have those solutions that are acceptable to the people, nobody's going to argue. If I propose that solution to these gentlemen, almost all of them would agree to that solution. So nobody's going to argue with it. That's how we get away from the arguing. We go to more universal principles. That's what our founding fathers were talking about when they said, we want to form a more perfect union. We are not going to form a perfect union, but we're going to try. And in order to do that, we go inward. We go to those inalienable principles that are there for all of us to enjoy. So that's what the Natural Law Party is proposing, solutions that all of us can be happy with, right, solutions that are going to solve all the problems.
Should non-essential welfare benefits be denied to illegal aliens who come into this country?
I think anyone who comes into this country, be it legally or illegally, should be provided for, pure and simple. This country is one of the richest on the face of the earth. We know this. Everyone knows this here. You walk around this here country, in every store, there's food items and clothing
What would you
items.
say to the typical taxpayer who might say to you that they think that's unfair?
When you say the typical taxpayer, you say the typical taxpayer, that wording.
What if somebody who disagreed with you? What if somebody who disagreed with you said to you, look, I don't want my tax dollars going for somebody who doesn't belong in this country?
Well, I would say to them, I don't want my tax dollars going to the military to exploit people around the world. Very simple. I say I would want that tax dollar to go back to providing for people around the world.
So how would you vote on that proposal?
Well, our forefathers said that we, like he was just saying about common defense. Our forefathers said that we're here to provide a common defense for the nation. So, Natural Law Party is for going slow on dismantling defense, but we have...
The question was on welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
Oh, welfare benefits. Well, I think that, we should be spending... you have to get to the source of that problem. Why do we have illegal aliens? It's because they're...
But before you get to the source, the issue is, should they get the benefits?
I think we should be spending... in order to eliminate that problem, I think it is a problem. I don't think that we should be, but I think that eliminating the problem means that we need to go to other countries and help support them to develop a good quality of life in those countries, because I think many aliens in this country, legal or otherwise, love their lands. They don't necessarily want to come to the United States. They love their lands, and they'd like to go back and live in their lands and have a good quality of life in their lands. So I think that's what we should do to solve that problem.
I would not only vote for the measure, I would co-sponsor it. I would do everything in my power to get it out of committee. I would go out and actively stump for it.
What have you got against aliens?
I have nothing against aliens. Part of what made this country great was the stream of immigrants that we had to this country, and more importantly, what brought them here and what they did when they arrived here. They came here to this country for the opportunity that it offered, and they came here, many of them, with very little to to start with. They worked very hard, they pulled themselves up, and they made use of the opportunity that existed in this country. Those are the kinds of people that we need to add to our society and don't hurt us at all. The problem we have today, the reason we are starting to see problems with immigration is because of the fact that we have the dole openly available to people, and that's the kind of people we're beginning to attract. Bees are attracted to nectar, and flies are attracted to something else. And if we're starting to draw flies in this country, there's a reason for it.
Did you just call aliens flies?
I just call people who come to this country or anywhere else to get on the dole and exist off other people's money exactly what they deserve to be called.
Mr. Carr.
Of course, I'd support a cutoff of non-essential welfare to illegal aliens. Furthermore, I've introduced a bill to require that our president negotiate treaties with countries all over the world to send illegal aliens who are in our prisons back to terms of service in their prisons and freeing up our own prison space. We're spending $1 billion a year housing illegal aliens who happen not only to have broken the law to come here in the first place, but they've broken some other law, gotten caught, convicted, and they're in our jails. They're taking up prison space that we need in the fight on crime.
Why have you waited until now to do this if this problem's been evident for over 20 years?
No, I did it. Well, I don't know that it's been evident.
Well, illegal aliens have been coming into the country for years, have they not?
Well, but the facts on the illegal alien population of our prisons was just made
No,
public.
I'm talking about the problem in general, not the prison problem, but the people coming into California and Texas and people like that. Why'd you wait until now to take this position? Or you've been fighting for it before?
I've been, sure, of course.
Mr. Abraham, your position on that?
Well, I would vote to not provide those services. By the very definition, we're talking about people who are illegally in this country. And I'm the grandson of immigrants, and I have a great appreciation for the contribution to this country of people who came from other places.
Aliens, we cut off 94 million
I believe
people.
that that enough is enough. I think you have to draw the lines. And I would also make this point. I'm delighted to hear Mr. Carr say today that he would take this position, but he cast a vote that would not have even prohibited illegal aliens from receiving National Endowment for the Humanities.
So he's being hypocritical.
I think
that's,
so. Yeah.
Well,
that's not true.
That's
No,
not
Mr. Roundtree, your point.
Because we just cut off 94,000 people here in the state of Michigan off the welfare system.
Yep.
And they have no
I
way
support
to.
the
They have
decision
no
that was
way.
made.
They have no way
Van Engler took
to
the right
live.
decision.
They have no way to live.
Look, the
so we're going to
welfare
keep
system is
cutting
badly
and cutting,
broken.
and this is what's going on in this country right now. 39
Studies showed that
million
most of those people just went to
are
federal
being
welfare.
cut off. They can't find jobs. Workers are working 56 hours a week. They had to go on strike to demand that they hire more workers. So your logic is illogical.
Well,
and that's the simple lie.
All right, Mr. Carr, you were just called hypocritical on this issue by your opponent here.
Well, I don't, he calls me all kinds of things. He morphs my head with Don Regal. You'd think my first name was Clinton instead of Bob. It's always Clinton Carr, not Bob Carr. He's just a master at spin. The fact of the matter is, I've always had a position that illegal aliens should not get anything but essential services like the emergency room or emergency food.
All right, Mr. Abraham, do you think the First Lady in this country has become too involved in partisan politics?
I think she has First Amendment rights, and she should exercise them as she sees fit. I'm not running for the U.S. Senate to determine what Hillary Clinton's role ought to be.
Do you think the role of the First Lady should be as expansive as she has made it?
I think every First Lady makes their own decision. I don't really have a position on what her role ought to be.
You're comfortable with her role?
All First Ladies have a role to carve out, and everyone does it a little differently. Nancy Reagan or Michelle Engler.
Do you applaud this one, though?
Sure.
Do you?
I'm comfortable with her role, but the problem in this country is not what role the First Lady may or may not play. The problem in this country is that we have not had a responsible government for a very long time. The people in this country are getting very tired of that. Both the Republican and the Democratic parties have both had a hand in creating it, and in spite of all the finger pointing, they're both to blame. The only answer we're ever going to see to that problem, in my opinion, is to provide some real competition so that we start to get responsible government out of them, and that's what this election's all about, giving them some real competition.
Well, truthfully, I like to see a woman president, so she should have ran for office.
So you think that what she's doing now is inappropriate?
Well, again, I'm not going to...
Hopefully we'll have a first gentleman
I would like to
someday,
see a
Tim.
woman president. Very simple. If she wants to be president, run for president.
Me too.
And
Not
any
that
other
one.
woman.
But not that one what?
Not that one.
Oh, you would not vote for her for
I
president?
would not vote for her.
How come?
Because I disagree with virtually everything she says. How's that? I think she wants to socialize the healthcare system in this country. I think she'd love to raise taxes. I think she'd probably support your $10
good.
minimum wage idea.
She should socialize health care in this country.
You should vote for her. I wouldn't.
Mr. Reed.
Well,
you know, again, as Spence said, she has her right to free speech. The Natural Law Party has fielded over 30% of its candidates in the last 2 elections are women. So we strongly support women in politics. But again, you know, in a non-political position, I would rather that the nation's focus of attention was on the president and how he feels about health care or the other issues that she's concerned with, more than on what, you know, than her taking the forefront of it. And I would, you know, I think that if he stands so strongly for these issues, or for it, he should be taking the forefront.
Do you think she's crossed the line, that she's gone too far? Just a yes or no would do.
Well, it would do, but I think, you know, it's up to her to decide what she wants to do, but I think that our leaders who are listening to her, whether Congress should be spending a lot of time, you know, focusing their attention on her, rather than focusing their attention on what Bill Clinton is trying to do, or, you know, if she wants to take another position as an advisor on some of these things, you know, then she's welcome. But
okay, Mr. Coon, what's the difference between Mr. Carr's 20 years in Congress and Mr. Abraham's extensive campaigning as, excuse me? 18 years, excuse me. and Mr. Abraham's extensive career in Michigan political politics?
What's the difference? Well, obviously,
is there any?
Obviously, there are a good many differences between their 2 career paths, but the careers have been essentially the same.
Are they both career politicians?
I would certainly say so. I don't think that either one of them could legitimately say that they're not, and I'm not saying it's necessarily bad that they're career politicians, but I would say that we've had some pretty bad career politicians in this country.
Well, aren't you? You're for term limits, aren't you?
Sure.
Well, that gets rid of career
Mr. Abraham is for term limits too.
Well,
I don't think.
Well, you do have something against career politicians. If you're for term limits.
Sure.
Well, then which is it, Mr. Coon?
You just asked me if I would term Spencer Abraham a career politician. I said yes. Now you're asking me if term limits should apply to him. To what? Republican Party state chair?
All right, you both plead guilty to being career politicians, Mr. Abraham?
Look, Tim, there's no doubt I've been involved in politics for a long time, and I fought, the measuring stick is what have you fought for? Here in Michigan, I fought for less taxes, reducing the size of state government.
But what's the difference in between your career politician and his? You've made an issue out of that in campaign.
Well, the difference is he's actually been in the Congress of the United States voting for higher taxes, voting for more spending. Since he got there in 1975, the federal deficit's gone from $450 billion to $4.5 trillion.
You hold him accountable for that?
I was there under proposals to increase the deficit by Republican presidents. He wants to ignore that.
Well, it's your record. You're the one running here for the United States Senate.
No, listen, no Republican president ever proposed a balanced budget.
And neither did you.
I voted for a balanced budget. You talk about it. I've actually been there and I've voted for it. Because I'm committed.
You say you're for a balanced budget, but last year alone, the national tax, last year alone,
last year I voted to cut the deficit.
Last year alone, Bob, the national taxpayers
union estimated that I voted to cut taxes on 392,000 people.
Yes, and raised them on
Mr. Coon has
on the rest of us, the 1%. You want to support the 1%.
All right, gentlemen, just a second. Mr. Coon has an editorial comment.
Yeah, I'll make this quick so we can move on to the other 2 candidates here. It's pretty simple. Just let me propose something to you. Let me propose that in 20 years we get back a responsible government. And the people once again can pledge allegiance to the flag in this country and get the lump in the throat like they used to, and we have responsible government. What are the history books going to say? Are they going to say that we started to get a change in government on the year that Spencer Abraham, the Republican, was elected with his Shake Up Washington platform? Are the history books going to say we got our change the year that Bob Carr was elected to the U.S. Senate? Are they going to say we got our change in 1994 when the people of this country finally decided to send a message to Washington?
Mr. Roundtree.
I'll leave you with that.
I'm for, there's nothing wrong with having a job, again. And the Senate's a job. Have as long as you want. I have no problem with that.
I'm very much in favor of term limits myself. I feel that we need more change in the process. I don't think that the process that we've arrived at in the 1990s is at all what our founding fathers envisioned. I don't think they envisioned people taking a career in politics. And I think to say that it's good to have experience, and I think there should be ample time in those term limits. For instance, I think for Congress the term limit should be a little bit longer sooner than it is in Michigan. I think for Senate it's good. 2 terms, 12 years, that's long enough really to get good ideas in. And to say that one person, you know, whoever is elected to the Senate is the only person that should represent Michigan or the only person that's going to have good ideas, it's nonsense. There's so many good people in society. So we need to get more of that process of change in the process. That's what Jefferson was asking for.
We have 2 minutes left. Mr. Abraham, can you give me one major example where you have broken ranks with the Republican Party on an issue?
Yes, I would have supported the lobby law reform bill, which was before the Senate.
And so blocking that in the Senate was absolutely wrong.
I think once it was clear that the grassroots kind of lobbying was not going to be covered by that bill, it was wrong.
Do you hold Bob Dole accountable on that?
Well, whoever voted the wrong way...
Well, he was a leader, right?
Huh?
He was leader in the Senate.
I just told you how I would vote. That was a case where I'd have broken.
Do you believe he has the independence to break with party policy?
Very rarely. I think that there's a strong pull on Spencer Abraham to follow the Republican playbook, and Bob Dole and Phil Graham, whatever they say.
If that's what his philosophy is.
Well, that is his philosophy. He basically says that. I mean, that's a big difference between Spencer Abraham, who's the doctrinaire, ideological, conservative Republican, and Bob Carr, who's the independent, moderate Democrat.
Are you?
No. Actually, Bob Carr is the liberal Democrat who votes with the president 4 out of 5 times, and I promise you I won't do that in the U.S. Senate.
I think that they will both toe the party line because both of them are hoping to be brand new freshman Democratic or Republican senators. They'll both toe the party line, and I'm looking forward to replacing Bob Dole as the Senate Minority
What is wrong
Leader.
with towing the party line if that's what your party philosophy is?
Well, it's wrong when your party's been involved with leading this country in the wrong direction for 140 years and hasn't passed a balanced budget in 25. Then it's wrong.
Mr. Roundtree.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
All right.
I'm not concerned with them towing the party line. I'm concerned with people responding to the PAC money that they're getting and the organized money that they're giving. Our party is squarely for taking that out of the process, and if they take that out of the process, we won't have to be concerned about what they're saying. Then we'll be concerned about what they're saying. Right now, it's not so much to be concerned about what they're saying as who is sponsoring them. When we find out who's sponsoring them, then you'll know how they'll vote.
Right, quickly around the horn. How would you have voted on NAFTA?
I would have wanted to give it a chance.
No.
Down, I support free trade, but it did more than that. It sold the sovereignty of this country.
I voted no on NAFTA.
I'd have voted yes, and the results are great.
Do you concede that the results were good on NAFTA?
No, I don't.
Hey, wait. Well,
You don't
say
know.
why they're great?
Listen. He asked me the question.
Well, you're taking away my last 15 seconds here.
We've already sold 24,000 cars this year.
Is that true?
It is good for final
And last year we
assembly.
sold
It is not good
4,000
for
the whole
auto
year.
parts. It is
It is
good for
good.
final
It'll be good,
assembly.
and it'll create jobs in
It is
Michigan.
good for
Would you
final assembly jobs. We have created final assembly jobs. It won't be
That's
as good
good
for
for
parts in the long term.
Would you vote to repeal it?
Well, that's not going to be. Yes, I would.
You would vote to repeal it?
Yeah, but it's not going to be.
Okay, and you would not.
No,
It's not
absolutely.
I would vote to repeal it because it sold the sovereignty of this country. Get real free trade, and I'll support it.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, you won't believe this, we are out of time. Our thanks to all 5 of you for appearing on our platform for this love-in today. And Friday night on Off the Record, we'll have John Smetanka running for Attorney General against incumbent Democrat Frank Kelly. Till then, I'm Tim Skubick. Thanks for watching, and good night.
For an edited transcript of this program, see the Friday, October 28th Detroit Free Press.
This program is made possible in part with a grant from Citizens Insurance Company of America.
Local broadcast of the U.S. Senate debate is made possible by the Detroit Free Press, proud to bring you this year's gubernatorial and Senate debates on Channel 56. The Free Press, helping the community make informed choices every day.